Hey guys, this is Chris Jones, your host of Beyond Local. This is episode 29, second week of the new year, and we're going to be talking about setting goals in 2021. Very familiar face, our Vice President of Search at LSEO, Kyle Cozy. Welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Absolutely. You got a fresh new haircut. You got your dog Blake running around the office the last couple of days. It's been pretty awesome to kick off the new year with us here in person, and looking forward to 2021. So this is a topic that you had suggested that we focus on, and I think that it's completely appropriate from the point of view of, in a lot of cases, the clients that come to LSEO don't seem to have a game plan.
Yep.
Right? They know that directionally they should be improving their digital marketing, but they don't have a formal plan. They don't set goals. So this is an important podcast for those folks that might be watching that feel like they're kind of like, approaching 2021 with the hope of increasing their organic search traffic, but not actually laying down the goal. So we have the opportunity to, you've been in this industry for a long time and you're a foremost expert, to help them along. So let's start. So I know, and you have a blog post as well, right, on this topic. And one of the places you want to start, you think they should start, is on KPIs, or key performance indicators. So talk more about that.
Yeah, so you hit on one already, organic search traffic. But really you want to get into those quantitative metrics like traffic, revenue, if you're an e-commerce store, or if you're a service-based business, say like LSEO, we track goals in the form of form fills or phone calls, and then other metrics for your website that are important that you may not consider, things like bounce rate, time on site, and then also the conversion rate, how much of the traffic that you're getting, at what clip is that converting into a phone call, a form fill, or even a checkout if you're an e-commerce store.
So you're suggesting they need to identify these KPIs. One of the interesting things from my point of view in the tech space, because I'm a technologist in addition to a growth marketer, is, when I'm studying things like the lean startup model and different, I'm actually reading a book right now called, what is it called? Blitz Growth, which is by LinkedIn's founder, Reid Hoffman. And the idea is that you don't need 10 metrics. You only need the metrics that matter.
Yep.
So sometimes people, if they're trying to figure out what their KPIs are, they have too many of them. And there's probably 2 or 3 that matter the most. What do you think they are?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you 3 that I think you should focus on for SEO. I think it all depends what the numbers are. You have to peel back the onion, take a step back, look at what your numbers were in 2020. How did you perform? Did you hit the traffic numbers you wanted? Did you hit the conversions that you wanted? Or do you think your site is lacking in other ways? Like, we don't have to get into those quantitative metrics like traffic, conversions of form fills, how many people are checking out, things like that. It doesn't only have to be about that. Maybe your site's lacking in other areas. Maybe people aren't staying there. Maybe you were satisfied with your traffic, but you need more. So you want to set goals around creating new pages or gaining new keywords. Or maybe you think your authority on the web is lacking compared to some of your competitors. And maybe you want to set some goals around link building. We're kind of forecasting to what we're going to touch later in this podcast, but things like that. So I don't think there's 3. Obviously you should start with traffic. You want traffic growth year over year. But when you get into some of those other goals like 2 and 3, I think it all depends on where you're currently at with your website and where you're lacking in areas.
I'm just, as I was listening to you, I'm thinking, do I have 3? I would say traffic, keyword rankings, and conversions, whatever that means to whoever's listening. Because to your point, if you're an e-commerce site, you're really tracking revenue and transactions. If you're a services-based company, you're form fills and phone calls. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say some of those goals are like subsets of the others, right? If you want to increase your traffic, well, a way to do that is gain new keyword rankings. How do you do that? By creating new landing pages. So I think you're going to have a main goal and then different ways to get to that goal.
Well said. What should you base your goals on? Which you kind of talked a little bit about now, but I think one of the things you mentioned in your blog post is the idea of creating a baseline. So looking at the historical data. So when you're talking about what you should base the goals on, is it Google Analytics? Give us a little bit more.
Yes. So definitely the data. Hopefully, a lot of the websites out there have things like Google Analytics or some sort of analytical tracking set up, whether it be Adobe or something else. If you don't, you could obviously use estimated metrics like SEMrush or other tools like that. But yeah, look at the data. Start with the historical data. Where was your traffic in 2020? And like I said, did you have a goal? Did you not? Or maybe you didn't, but was the number that you received throughout 2020 in terms of your organic search traffic, was that good enough for you? And if it was, fine, but you should still have a goal going into 2021 because you obviously want to increase that. And that's where, so like I like to start with maybe increasing it by 20%. But then again, you have to take into consideration how much traffic your website does have. If you get 1 million visits in a year, 20% is going to be a lot. So you have to base that goal off of the historical data based on where you were at in 2020 or even in previous years.
But getting a little bit deeper into this idea of baselining, what came to my mind is, I'm not sure all businesses are tracking their keyword rankings, or maybe they haven't updated their keyword rankings. So maybe kicking off the new year here with the comprehensive keyword research and analysis and trying to understand, what we call at LSEO, those money terms, those ones that are within striking distance of the coveted page one ranking. So positions 11 through 30. That's where I would be. And I have a bunch of websites. So this is what I'm doing right now. I mean, candidly, in the last week or two of last year is when I was doing my goal setting formally, getting it down on paper for this year. And for the websites that are in my portfolio, which you're working on, your team, I have pretty big goals for you guys. For instance, the pepperjam.net, the gourmet food website, my goal is, and we have some issues there because we had some stuff from last year, but my goal is to rank top 10, so page 1 for pepper jam and pepper jelly and the derivations of those. And so again, comprehensive keyword research and analysis. And then I would say you mentioned backlinks, which is another. How does that fit into this? When should folks that are watching just let it happen on its own? So all of their future, their authority is going to be determined by sort of just natural, acquisition of links, or should they put a concerted effort together? Because I think it's one of those things where it requires a concerted effort. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about some of those outside the box goals like backlinks, or other areas like page speed and things like that, sure, like natural backlinks are going to happen, but if you're sitting there and like I said, you're looking at this data and competitors are beating you in authority score or unique referring domains that they have pointing to their website versus yours, just sitting there and letting it happen, you're never going to catch up. So you have to think about creative ways. And this is one thing that we did last year when we were looking at link building and the products offered by us, but also our competitors, is how do we take that to the next level? And we came up with this advanced link building strategy. Not going to share that here, but those are the things or the steps that you need to take to start increasing your authority and catching up to your competitors. And again, you have to analyze the data, see where you're at, and just sitting there and letting it happen is not going to get you to that next level.
Perfect. So you're talking about some of the outside the box. You mentioned improving your backlink profile in the article. What exactly do you mean by that? Does that mean disavowing links? Does it mean trying to look at the origin of those links by country? I've personally done a lot of international work. And one of the things that boggles my mind is that in some cases, really big, large companies, I look at their backlink profile and they're located somewhere in Latin America and most of their links are coming from the US or from different parts of the world. Is that what you mean by really kind of digging into your backlinks?
Yeah, it's kind of twofold. So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to disavow anymore. Google says they'll just ignore those spammy links, but by all means, if you feel more comfortable disavowing them, go for it. And you could do that by running a backlink audit in SEMrush or another tool, seeing what comes back as marked as toxic, and disavow it. But obviously, that's one way to approve. But if you just want to err on the side of what Google's guidelines are now, they'll just ignore it. But I mean, again, trying to catch up in terms of authority, and that's increasing the quantity of quality backlinks. So you don't want to just increase the quantity and get more listed as toxic when you run an audit. You want to increase the quantity of the quality of the backlinks. So again, thinking of creative ways like our advanced link building strategy, or partnering with sites, or blasting out PR pieces to try and get picked up by new sites. Just think of creative ways throughout 2021 where you could increase the quality of your backlink profile.
Awesome. You mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, you didn't reference it this way. I was recently asked to be part of a roundup on a blog, and they said, what is 2021? What's going to be new? And I don't know if this is new, but at the end of last year, Google overtly came out with this reaffirmation of the importance of web vitals. Mm-hmm. And so, page speed, among other things. So can you just hit on a couple of the things that folks should be really, really paying attention? These are like must-have type of areas of opportunity and or things that need to get addressed immediately.
Yeah, and actually now that I think back to your question of which three things, I think this one should absolutely be one of the three. Yeah. Just because of the news that came out of Google's going to use this as a ranking factor starting in May of 2021. The core web vitals, it's how fast or how your page loads. So when we think back to the mobile first index, this is different from that. Sure, your site should still be mobile friendly and all of that type of stuff. But when we're talking about this, the core web vitals, it's really how your page loads, how fast it loads, when's the first contentful paint, when does somebody see something, and then you know how when you load something on your phone, things shift around. How fast does that shift happen to paint the full picture? So this is really about the page load time and getting it as fast as possible. And then Google's said they might even give out badges for people who pass this test. So it's going to be huge. And if you want to, I don't know how much weight it's going to have in their ranking algorithm, but if you want to beat competitors or get on top of this should absolutely be one of your goals as a website owner.
Awesome. You mentioned a couple other important sort of out of the box things. We've done podcasts together where we talked about, rich snippets and those kind of things. So is there a couple more that you just want to mention that you covered in your post?
Yeah. So obviously we talk about rich snippets, and we mentioned keyword rankings as being one of the things that could increase your traffic. Well, again, like I said, there's going to be subsets of these goals or bullets under the main goal of how you get there. And one of the things with traffic is trying to get into a featured snippet box. Again, voice search is becoming huge when you ask Alexa or Siri on your phone different questions or different things, and they want to populate or give you a result back. That comes from those rich snippets. So, and obviously being in that position 0, that's what we call it because it's above everything else. If you could get that position 0 result, you're going to get more clicks. So having that as a subset of your traffic goal of obviously creating new landing pages, gaining first page rankings, but also getting in more featured snippet boxes. So do the research, Google something and see what comes up in the rich snippet or the answer box and create your content just how that is, or answer those same questions, but make it better. And then one of the other things is just improving your user experience metrics. So we talked about bounce rate and time on site a little bit in the beginning, but again, study those metrics. How was it last time? And then just make sure that you're improving your pages or how your pages look. And again, we talked about page speed. That's a user experience metric, but also adding richer media to those pages like podcasts, videos, and even infographics. Engage the users, make them want to stay on the page or even watch a video like we do with these podcasts. We insert it into a blog post that gives the reader the ability to either read the article or watch the podcast.
Awesome. So you were telling me on the way down here to Studio 16 South that I guess, going into last year, just a couple of weeks ago, I was harping on all you guys, the executive team, about, set your goals, yeah, right? Yeah. And you said, Jonesy, I kind of got this idea based on that. So,
yeah. So, yeah, to end this podcast, being a co-host, I kind of wanted to reverse the roles and put this question back on you, because I know with your background, being a successful CEO for many years, goal setting is very important to you. So I just wanted to kind of end this with you giving the viewers the answer as to why is it important to set goals.
So first off, if you don't grow, you die. Mm-hmm. So literally, I keep it really simple, stupid, and growth feels good. It's worth the effort. And one of the reasons that I think goals are critical is I always talk about that I start with the outcome. I get really clear on what I want and why I want it in pretty much everything I do. I know that might sound robotic and mechanical, but I've been at this for a long time, and I've had some consistent, I've failed enough, etc. But I win a lot, and it really does come down to this idea of starting with my outcome. Outcome is another way. It's what I use for the word goal. So it's critical. Growth feels good. The other piece of this is that it allows us to know how we're doing. Like, what's worse in life than not knowing where you're headed? Not having a sense of an absence of excitement. And so what I would say within this context is that as it relates to their SEO strategy, I know you had suggested a 20% growth is, and by the way, if somebody gets 20% growth for 5 years, you're talking significant compounded growth. One of the things I like to talk about is this idea of setting uncomfortable goals. Sometimes I like to call them unrealistic, but I always clarify it by saying they need to be uncomfortable. And there's a reason for that. One of the reasons I start with my outcome and I make it a really big, audacious, uncomfortable goal is that most people don't take action because they don't know where they're going, or they don't take action because they fear that they're going to take the wrong step. Here's the secret sauce. The secret sauce is if you get clear on your outcome, you know what you want, and you make it a must, your freaking body takes the first couple of steps. You start doing the things you need to do to get what you want. And if you condition yourself to do that and you build it as a habit, like I have over these years, I'm incredibly religious as it relates to goal setting. I love it. And I love upping the game and upping the ante. You'll feel better at the end of the day. You'll feel better, and you'll inspire people around you. So thanks for asking the question. I hope today's podcast added value to whoever was watching. You could check out some of Kyle's previous podcasts on the Beyond Local section of the LSEO.com website. And he writes a ton of blog posts as well. So, and hopefully here in 2021, you'll get to see him speak at some of the industry conferences. I was reminded this morning that episode 30 is coming up. And I think I promised you guys that we would be doing some sort of higher profile interviews every 10 episodes. So I got to think that through because I don't have a plan for that next week, but I'm going to figure it out and hopefully bring someone super, super exciting to you guys. So stay tuned and we'll see you for the next episode.